I've been drawing a lot recently. This is head number 22 of the 100 Heads Challenge, and I'm already drawing differently. Welcome to the studio. Let's get into this sketch. I've been committed to the daily practice of drawing for a little while now, and I really enjoy this block of time, first thing in the day. This is both a technical exercise and a personal discipline. It's graphite on white paper, nothing fancy. No toned surface, no charcoal tricks, just a pencil, a paper stump, an eraser, and a lot of time. I begin with a hard pencil, sketching the head with soft, barely there lines. I press lightly, almost whispering to the paper. This is the construction phase, and it's not necessarily about detail, but it is about structure. I'm looking for those big rhythms, those major alignments, where the nose is in relation to the side of the head, where those eyes fit in the overall shape, the tilt of the mouth, and the angle of the ear. Now, once this scaffolding is in place, I move into tone. Now, I'm making my own graphite powder. I use a paper stump, and I begin laying it down gently, broad, soft marks. Now, I want my portrait to feel like it's emerging out of that shadow. I generally start with the background first and work my way towards the edges of the head. If you've been watching this series for a little while, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of Loomis and Hogarth, but more and more I've been pulling away from rigid systems. I've studied them, I've used them, but lately I found myself letting go. Now, instead of building with known forms, I'm actually searching more for shapes, abstract shapes, light against shadow, negative space, proportional relationships. And strangely, this looser approach is helping me get to a likeness a lot faster. I clean up my drawing and any of those excess construction lines with erasers. I have a mechanical eraser, as well as that Tombow Mono Zero, which is great for revealing highlights. As a head begins to shape up, I lay in a little bit of darker tone, pressing a bit firmer with my paper stump. You can actually get a great deal of control and pull interesting gradients out of deeper shadows by just pressing a bit lighter. I really like working at the boundary of light and shadow here, creating some much needed softness to round out some of my forms. Now, this here is a portrait study of my buddy Mike. This is hopefully going to be a much bigger painting at some stage, but with a little bit of a difference. I think Mike would make a great medieval king. And I want to paint something with the level of detail of Hans Holbein. I just love all that garment and drapery and bejeweled, sparkling regalia. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I start working back into some of those shadows with a hatching technique. And there's three main diameters on the mechanical pencils that I use: a 0.3, a 0.5, and a 0.7, in a variety of weights. Now, for the initial stages, I'm using a pretty hard lead. This is an H, and then I go over some of this hatching with a lighter, smaller paper stump. As I work into my shadows, I'll get darker and darker, so the lead needs to be a little bit softer. And so I'll opt for a B and maybe a 0.5 millimeter, and then a 2B in the 0.7 millimeter. One of the goals for my drawings, particularly with portraits, is a full range of tones, from the deepest black that I can achieve with this graphite to the brightest white, which is that bare paper that's left at the end. And one of these areas that's going to appear to be quite tonally bright is the sparkle in the eye. If I inadvertently get any graphite powder in these areas of highlight in the eye, I just do my best to remove that with the Tombow Mono Zero. But if I increase the contrast here by laying in even darker graphite, it'll give that appearance of brightness. I enjoy this way of working in reverse. adding in some of those darker shapes, and then revealing those highlights by removing material. This push and pull is everything. Adding tone, subtracting light, always balancing the two. Now you can actually do a pretty good job drawing with these Tombow Mono Zero erasers. Here, I'm using it to reveal some lighter silver whiskers that are caught against a dark background. And I love that contrast of light versus dark. Now you can trim your Mono Zero to form some pretty nice fine lines, but it doesn't stay sharp for very long. So I'm continually trimming down these erasers as I draw more and more lighter hairs over darker shapes. Working with my mechanical pencils, I try to create contours that define the form, the three-dimensionality in areas in the face. This is where I directly hatch over areas that were established by those paper stumps. And working into the eyes, some of these areas are going to be the darkest within the portrait, and hopefully really draw the viewer's attention. To achieve the depth of tone here, I'm using some Staedtler Mars Lumograph Black. I'm using a 2B and a 4B, and I continually sharpen these down with a sanding block. And incidentally, this is where I get my graphite powder from. It's mostly comprised of the Staedtler Mars Lumograph lead shavings. Now, just something that I've noticed while I've been working on portrait drawings as part of the 100 Heads Challenge, there's always that moment in virtually every drawing where I feel like it's not working. It's almost inevitable. But I've learned one thing, and that is to push through. That moment is just a gap between what I see in my head and what's on the page. And so I've learned not to panic in these moments and to avoid that temptation to grab a new sheet of paper and start all over again. I just stay in the zone and keep adjusting. I keep refining, and I've come to realize that's where the growth happens. But this has done something really interesting. It's allowed me to build a little bit of resilience into my process and into my daily practice. But previously, when I've felt that urge to start again and just forget about this one, mark it down to experience, I realize that I'm missing out on a vital opportunity to learn something new. But I'm building that staying power that is starting to really accelerate and build momentum throughout the process as a whole. I find that each and every drawing, I'm getting just a little bit better. But it doesn't make that pain go away. It's still very much there. So personally, I found this is just a case of pushing through. Keep going, keep drawing, don't give up. As I mentioned previously, I want to realize a full range of tones here. So that means the blackest black I can achieve and the lightest light. We're already starting to achieve that full tonal range. I've marked in some really dark tone around the collar of Mike's shirt, and I'll start to amplify the depth here in some of the features of the face, like around the corners of the mouth, around the nose, the eyes, the ears, etc. Slowly, I start pulling individual hairs, placing them carefully with intent. Now, these marks are less about realism and more about illusion. I found that with detail, it's about what you don't say, leaving things understated. This is something that I've really struggled with my work personally, over the years, this tendency to put too much in. But more and more recently, I've been playing with this idea of strategic detail. And this is just suggesting in just the right places without the need to spell anything out. So I place just a few hairs here and there with the eyebrows, corner of the mouth, the beard, of course. And I have used a little bit of artistic license here and made this a little more exaggerated than what Mike looks like in real person. Drop me a like if you think Mike should grow a little more of a Colonel Sanders beard. I really do love the opportunity for contrast of light against dark and dark against light. Even if it's something really small, like the hair on top of the head, just a little area of detail, but it's this combination of both that I think gives the drawing a lot of presence and power. This is another area where I'll suggest detail. And if you suggest just enough, the viewer's mind fills in the rest. That's when you've hit the sweet spot. Hopefully I've hit it there, but I'm not too sure yet. It's a bit too early to tell. You can let me know in the comments down below. Oh, but wait for the video to finish first though, right? I've really come to enjoy this daily habit. I found that it's not just about practice, it's about momentum. I'm starting to really feel the improvement, and it's not just the final results, but how I'm actually seeing. My eye is getting sharper, and my decisions are getting a little bit faster. But one thing has been a vital twist in this overall 100 Heads challenge. It's actually something that I feel has dramatically made a difference to the improvements that I'm seeing. It was by limiting the tools. So limiting the parameters, the overall scope of this challenge, that's what's causing me to see a vast improvement. It's just white paper, graphite, erasers. And I've taken away any temptation to complicate things by going to toned paper, working with chalk or Conti. Limitation forces me to focus. It actually removes a great deal of noise, and it puts a spotlight firmly on skill, on choices, on judgment. That's what this challenge is really about. It's not just about hitting 100 heads for the sake of a number, but it's been about showing up, about honing something real, following the thread, letting go of rules when they no longer serve, and finding what actually works, and evolving through that process. So if you're watching this and you've felt stuck or maybe unsure, or like you're circling around growth but never quite landing on it, I really encourage you to take up this challenge. Look, you set your own constraints, but make the time. Track your changes. And if you want full breakdowns and extended sketching sessions, there's a deeper dive into each of these drawings that you'll find on my channel. You'll find it all on Tisch Academy. The link is in the description down below. One head at a time. The hand sharpens, the eye sees more, and hopefully the work gets better. But stay consistent, stay curious, and keep showing up. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you in the next video.